Welcome to the SnapScale Show, hosted by Mike Yablonowitz and Nathan Bush. In every episode, we explore the real challenges and breakthroughs happening in modern healthcare operations, from navigating compliance to virtual staffing and emerging technology. You will hear real stories from clinics, learn from healthcare leaders, and uncover practical strategies that help you run a smoother, more efficient practice, without losing focus on what matters most: patient care. SnapScale exists to take the pressure off your front office and administration work, so you can get back to doing what you love. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel to get the latest episodes, and visit snapscale.com to learn more. Let's simplify healthcare operations together. This is the SnapScale Show.
How's it going, everybody? Welcome to SnapScale's Clinic Leadership Intensive. My name is Kyle Birnbaum. I'm one of the marketing leaders here at SnapScale. Unfortunately, Mike's not going to be able to make it with us today. It's personal matters to attend to, but you get me and you get Nathan, who, if you've been on any of these shows before, you'll recognize him. So, Nathan, how's it going?
What's up, Kyle? Yeah, thanks for jumping in at the last minute and helping fill in. The cool thing is for everybody is that we do have a clip from Mike that he's asked us to personally go ahead and select and play for you guys when we get to that important segment. So you didn't get to lose his sentiment or his ideas or any of his speaking for him to be able to share with you kind of his authentic vision for what we do.
It gets a participation trophy today.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we've been working tirelessly behind the scenes to put this program together to share with everybody that's here, whether you're a clinic or a clinical leader or clinician, how we can alleviate some of the challenges, the burdens, and some of the just overall frustrations that you may be feeling inside of the change in the economy that we've seen recently. And so, Kyle, we previously worked in an organization together. How much stress is it when the front office staff does some of these things? Like, do you remember when we had no-shows or employees that would, right before a packed day, they wouldn't show up?
Nathan, it's a butterfly effect. I mean, we had sales leaders that would need to come into stores to help, make sure the day gets shipped around, and that wasn't their original intention. Maybe they were going to go train with somebody else, or they had something else on their books. And, something that gets lost oftentimes is the customer journey. If you have somebody that's unfamiliar with that location or with the process or whatever it may be, it looks like you might be fumbling through the day. And that's not really, the front-facing experience that you want people to have when they come into your location. So, I mean, it could be one of many things when somebody doesn't show up, or even if it's, and life happens, right? Don't get me wrong, but like, you got to have a backup, buttoned up, something to be able to take those people through a smooth visit to your location.
That's so true. I mean, how about this one? If you're a clinic online and you're watching right now, clinician, or you're an office manager, for instance, and you're learning about HIPAA-compliant healthcare virtual assistants, you wanted to find out some information today, and you're trying to just unpack and uncover some different ways to improve your front office staff or maybe save some money. Outside of all of those things, have you ever felt like this, where your front office staff isn't representing your practice well? It hurts. It hurts bad. I remember a time where we had a young lady come into the office. She must have been about 25, and she forgot how to dress properly when she came into the office to sit at the front desk. And if it wasn't bad enough, we had one of the mayors from the local city that came into our clinic that day. And man, it was depressing and disappointing that the mayor saw somebody that was inappropriately dressed, and we hadn't had the time to send her home yet and to work through that process. So I don't know if guys online have ever experienced that. Kyle, I don't know if you remember any times where the front office staff maybe just didn't represent the front office well or the clinic well.
Well, you and I have both been business owners before we jumped on the SnapScale train, but people are going to be people. And when you run a large organization or even a small organization, people are going to have their little snafus, or, you might hire somebody new, and the best laid hiring practices, even if those are in place, some people slip through the cracks, and you're going to have these things that they just come up, so you got to be prepared for the unexpected.
Absolutely. And the last one here, maybe you're watching online, you're watching on replay right now. Have you ever spent weeks hiring and training just to start over again? For me, that's very frustrating. To hire somebody, bring them on board, you pour your heart and soul into them, you teach about the company mission, the vision, the values, you walk through their specific role, their job, only to find out at the end of that week, the end of that day, they don't even show up back from lunch. It can be very stressful and very frustrating, especially when there's patient care that you have to tend to. And so I got two big promises for everybody today. By the end of this webinar, you'll have a clear, actionable, permanent solution for your front desk staffing challenges without overpaying for mediocre hires or throwing away money to temporary fixes that are constantly restarting the hiring process. And I will also, Kyle and I will help you show you how you can take the next steps to implement the proven system we're going to share with you effortlessly with SnapScale. You can focus on running your practice and not running after new hires. Okay, those are the two big promises on today's show and today's program. And let's start by talking about the forces that are reshaping healthcare right now. This is the changes that are going on that we just need to be paying attention to. This is what every practice must prepare for. Number one, continued inflation. Operating expenses are currently going higher and higher. Reduced reimbursements. Insurance organizations are just not reimbursing at the same rates that they used to. How about this? Health insurance shift. Certain groups are being boxed out. Now, I don't know if you remember this, but in the industry, in the healthcare practices that we worked in, the health insurance company actually owned the manufacturer of the product that we were offering. And so a lot of different insurance companies were competing directly with our organization, Kyle, and they would start to box out so that our patients, people that we cared about, couldn't even use their insurance benefit for something that they needed and wanted.
Yeah, that was my first experience in healthcare, and that was really mind-blowing to me. It almost seems like you end up working for the insurance company, like they're your employer almost, without all the rules that they provide, and if, like you said, like the reimbursement rates, if they don't feel like paying the old rate, well, too bad. What are you going to do? And so those were really eye-opening pieces to the medical game that I was just completely unaware of before working in that industry.
Yeah, when we talk about challenging economic environments, maybe some of that's been created by this whole generational shift that we see going on right now, Kyle. People they just don't work as hard as they used to. They just don't put forth the same effort. I mean, maybe that's true, maybe it's not true, but those are things that I hear. Those are things that clinics tell me before they hire a SnapScale virtual assistant. Let's look at changing values. People, they used to have certain values, and today it's just different. You might see that the economy's changing because people are changing the way that they work, why they want to work, and the effort they put into it. And what do I mean by that is that if you look at just the millennial generation, that's not even, we're not talking Gen X, we're not talking baby boomers, we're not talking just the millennial generation. We know that the millennial generation is searching for meaning in their work. And so your organization, while you might say, okay, I'm a ocular facial plastic surgeon, or you might be saying right now that I'm a physical therapist. To the millennial generation, unfortunately, they don't even know what that means. And so they don't understand until you get them bought into the mission of what you're doing. They don't understand how important the work is that they're doing. And so until they can understand it, there's a disconnect between the values of just hard work, going to work, putting in the effort, staying late, coming in early, and serving patients and the level of care and the outcomes that you're receiving in your clinic. This generational gap and the generational change in value is a real thing. Then you have a dynamic political environment, whatever that means to you. You don't want to be caught off guard with what to do with your expenses as political environments change. I mean, even right now, as we're talking right now today, there is, whether you like them or disagree with them, there is the Trump tariffs that are going on, and that's impacting supply costs right now. That's impacting people's decision makings. It's impacting people's 401ks. These things are happening, and the environment is definitely shifting. And then lastly, I mean, Kyle, you're very aware of this. You helped me with this, the technological innovations. You helped me work through changes in technology. I can only imagine how disruptive technology is in healthcare.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, at the end of the day, technology is trying to help you work smarter, not harder, but you got to be able to adapt to it.
I mean, we have AI right now. If your practice doesn't understand how to use AI to scribe and to put the records into your EMR, like these are common practice things that are starting to happen across the entire United States that allows us to just be able to do more with less. That's all it comes down to.
Yeah, elevate efficiency.
Yeah, and higher in healthcare, if this stuff worked, Kyle, people would not be on this webinar right now. They would not be watching on replay. They would not be wanting to receive the email follow-up from us right now. You guys, you wouldn't be here right now if it wasn't for, if these things worked, right? The first one, better hiring practices. Like, okay, so you can do behavioral-based questions, or you can do things like setting up talent pools. You can try skills testing. You can try defining better tasks, picking better requirements. Heck, you can have cultural-based job ads, which I've heard are kind of more new and innovative ways to approach hiring. Those are the best practices that are out there right now, yet still, you have elevated cost. You have elevated amounts of work going on inside of your practice. You have tasks that are piling up and nobody there to do the work. So if better hiring practices work, then we wouldn't be having this conversation. If we could cut costs and we could get more efficiencies out of our operations just through better training, I'm sure you're already doing that. You're probably putting forth all of the effort to document your curriculum, make sure your workflows are set up, make sure that people are following through on what needs to be done from a patient care perspective in a training capacity. I was on a private meeting the other day with a group of very high level entrepreneurial clinic owners and some other entrepreneurs. And I had a conversation with them about training. And I said to them, if your training's not transformative, it's not impactful at all. And what I was referencing is that if you just educate people to the degree that they're studying, you're not influencing their behavior. They're just learning. And so many times there's a disconnect between somebody learning something and then them actually implementing those things. Definitely. And so sometimes training just doesn't make things more efficient. You know what I'm talking about, Kyle?
Yeah, you got to be able to show the application. And sometimes it takes repetition to get that ingrained, especially for a new hire who's not familiar with your systems, not familiar with the practice. Maybe they came from the industry, but your business still may be, completely different than another, very similar one. And so those things take time. And sometimes we got to remember that we have to have patience for that. And even so, like, even if you get that right, it's like you said, you still have all these things backing up in your practice that still need to be handled. So it's like a yin and yang to hiring in general. So that can be a frustration too.
Yeah, the tasks don't stop when the training starts. Like, you still have to do them and they still have to get done. How about this?
And that puts pressure on you as the business owner, because you in your mind are thinking, we have all this stuff to do. It needs to get done. It needs to get done. And so you end up unintentionally even pushing that new hire forward to try to get those tasks handled. And, sometimes that patience, just like your own personal patience, is just not there when you have all these things on your mind.
Absolutely. How about this? Higher wages. I remember in the medical organization that we worked in, one of the things we tried to do to attract better front office staff, better administration staff, was just raise the wage. Well, all that did was cut into our margin. It didn't.
Well, just raising the wage doesn't matter if you still have the wrong person, right? If you still can't deliver the why, if they still can't understand the system, that's when it cuts into the margin.
That's totally true, but also just raising the wage in general, just to attract the same caliber of person that you used to pay, let's round numbers. Let's say I paid somebody $10 an hour, and now I'm having to pay them $15 an hour to attract the same caliber and level of person to do competent work. It just becomes more and more expensive. It plays into this inflation conversation on wages, but our prices can't go up in some instances to the same tune. We're only reimbursed so much by insurance practices. We only have so much opportunity that's available for us. So our costs are going up. Things are happening. Just because I raise the wage doesn't mean that I'm solving this economic challenge as the economy shifts. You see what I'm saying, Kyle?
Definitely.
And then
when you're getting squeezed out on all areas, it just makes that even tougher.
100%. And then along the same lines of hiring, raising the wages, we also tried signing bonuses. Do you guys ever try this? Those that are watching online and on replay, you ever try a signing bonus yet to try to attract the right person? How'd that work out for you? They start work maybe like 6 months, and then you gave the signing bonus, but then they're gone. Like we tried it. I know I've been through that process before. Or how about this one here? You ever do internal career days, job fairs, onboarding in groups? Like this takes up tremendous amounts of time.
Time and effort from your already existing staff that's already stretched thin, trying to achieve, trying to handle those all those other tasks for the person that you're trying to hire for. Like it seems like you're just spinning your wheels, another Groundhog Day moment.
Yeah. And then maybe you tried personality profiling in your hire to find the right fit for the role. You can also do this. You can invest in culture, right? You can invest in soft skills training. You can invest in more marketing to bring in the right caliber of people to your organization. You might be doing some of these. You might be doing all of these things online right now. None of these things are getting you more efficiency or are reducing your costs that are impacted by the overall shifts in the economy. Right? None of them. In fact, most of these things are increasing your costs. And therein lies the problem. We have a major issue in healthcare in the United States right now, and that is none of the things that used to work to improve efficiencies are actually improving efficiency anymore. They're increasing costs. And what do you do about it? That's the real problem. There is an easy and affordable solution. I don't want to make it be the easy button because it's not, but it is an easier and more affordable solution than just all of those other old ways that we used to try to do this. And this is simply a HIPAA-compliant healthcare virtual assistant. Here's what happens. They help drive profitability while improving patient care. I'm going to show you how that happens. Number two, there's no risk to privacy or data security. I'm going to show you what 100% HIPAA compliance looks like and how you can make sure that your data is protected while you're working with somebody who may be overseas. And then lastly, better patient experience. When you have better patient experience, you have more referrals. I want you to think about specifically, think about the last restaurant you went to. When you went to that restaurant, did you like it? If you did like it, did you tell somebody about it? If you did tell somebody about it, why did you tell them about it? It's likely because of the experience you had when you went there. Well, patients work no differently than a customer at a restaurant when it comes to patient experience. If the patient has a good experience through their surgery, through their process, if they felt like you cared, if you handheld them all the way from beginning to end, A to Z, and they felt supported by you, then guess what happens? They tell other people who potentially need to have a similar surgery to come talk to you. And then they end up trying to work with their insurances and move, all the things that they can around in order to come to your. I've even had practices receive private pay for stuff that normally would be insurance reimbursed, and they could have had insurance reimbursed, but they went to private pay because of the patient experience. If we can improve the patient experience, we can generate more referrals. Haven't you noticed this, Kyle?
Absolutely. I've made that own decision in my personal life. Sticking with somebody that like and trust is a big deal. But if all else remains equal, you want to stay.
Absolutely. Now, how does it all work? That's the real question, right? How is it easier? How is it more affordable? What does this process even look like? How does it improve patient care? Well, let's start with this. Every minute that passes in a clinic isn't just time. It's the opportunity to complete another task. And so what you see on the left-hand side of the screen represents time falling, but tasks that need to get done by end of business. What typically ends up happening is you can see in this hourglass that it's kind of clogged and backed up. Nothing's really getting through. What you need is you need something to remove the clog. And that's what a HIPAA compliant healthcare virtual assistant does. It works in these micro moments of patient care. Okay, your virtual assistant is going to help with responding to texts, insurance verifications. They're going to respond to the incoming endless amount of phone calls, inbound and make outbound phone calls for patient confirmation or patient follow-up. In these micro moments of patient care, when you pick up the phone and you call the patient and say, hey, I'm sorry that you missed your appointment this past Thursday. We had you on the schedule. Did we make a mistake? Is there anything that we can do to get them back on the schedule, get you back on the schedule? I've got Thursday or Friday, which day works better? When you take the time to call the patient, that's a micro moment of patient care. Here's a micro moment of neglect. The patient messages in on the HIPAA compliant healthcare messenger that you have looking for an answer and nobody responds. That's a lack of patient care. Here's a lack of patient care. The patient shows up for their visit and nobody's been able to verify their insurance yet. So they're waiting an extra 20, 30 minutes so that you can verify their insurance or wait on hold who knows how long with the insurance company. Okay, these are micro moments of patient care. So here's what the SnapScale virtual assistant does. It opens a floodgate. See, when you're backed up, you have delayed treatment. When you're backed up and you have these micro moments of patient care, you have missed confirmation calls with no appointments. You have longer time before diagnosis or intervention, and patients' pain continues to be agitated and uncomfortable. And they translate that wait time to your organization. You have decreased trust. Decreased trust comes from patients feeling forgotten or undervalued. This erodes their confidence in your clinic, and it reduces your professionalism. When you can't get back to somebody, when you can't get the intake form done, when you can't process their fax, when you can't process the referral, when you can't get the things done in a timely fashion, those micro moments erode trust. You have increased stress with the patient. So this is where they have over confusion or over scheduling. I'll tell you about a snafu one time. I had a patient that was booked for the wrong clinic. They were used to seeing a provider in one location, and they actually got booked in a different location. And that stress was caused because we had a new front office staff member who, when they were answering the phone, didn't recognize or know the patient. They didn't know the patient's chart. And that high turnover led to more frustration and stress for our staff. And so you have...
It's not unique to that one location. I mean, my wife was telling me a story the other day. She works for a clinic, and they have multiple locations, and that very thing happened, and the human nature happens, but it's a bad look for that patient. And like you said, it erodes trust. So it's not a unique problem.
Yeah, and not only does it erode trust, but ultimately, number 4 here on the screen, Kyle, is that you get worse healthcare outcomes. If you don't take care of the micro moments of patient care inside of your practice, for the patient, their health gets worse and worse and deteriorates because nobody's following up on the actual care plan for that patient. Let's say that you're a hearing clinic and you are forgetting to call patients for their 1-year annual exam because you just don't have time to get to it. Those tasks are backing up, they're bottlenecking, and that patient doesn't get their annual exam. What if that equipment is no longer applicable to their hearing loss? These are problems. These are real patient care issues. Now, it's not just an issue, though, for the patient and patient care. From a clinical perspective, you have lost revenue. Think about this. That missed appointment is actually an empty chair. It's actually lost income. I don't know how to say it any other way than that. Healthcare requires 2 things. It requires a heart and a head. We have to have the heart to take care of the patient. We have to have the head to keep in business, okay? And so lost revenue is a problem. Also wasted payroll. Staff spending time trying to catch up on things or having to put in extra hours and paying overtime in order to get these specific tasks done and caught up. You have lower...
Pause there for a second, because something that's not listed there is staff burnout because of what you just described. You know, you might have a perfectly awesome staff, but they're just burned out because there's so many overwhelming tasks that can't make it through that funnel that are bottlenecked, and they're trying to catch up. You know, you don't want to burn those great people out because you're overworking them. You know.
Yeah. At the previous organization that we worked for, Kyle, I remember regional managers coming to me and they were speaking about, before we were able to get SnapScale in place and before we were able to set up a good relationship with SnapScale to help with some of these tasks. I remember the regional managers coming to me and they were talking about how the staff was burned out. They were overwhelmed. There was too much going on in the clinic. I don't know if that's, I mean, you brought up burnout, the guys online. I don't know if that's you or not. Have you guys ever experienced turnover from burnout? It's an awful situation.
Well, if you're a practice owner and maybe you have a small clinic and those burdens might fall back on you, you know, and you're already overworked, staying away from your family, trying to keep up with payroll, your insurance, the patient care, you know, all those other things. And like you yourself could get burned out just as easy, you know?
Absolutely. And then how about this? Just lower patient retention, compliance risks if we don't do the right thing. That'll be a major challenge for your organization. I mean, if you don't get private health information requests over to the physician that requested the information from the patient in a timely fashion, that puts you in violation of HIPAA, and you don't want to do that with the private health information. Or dropping the ball on regulatory things that are available and required of us. And then the last thing is just this whole concept of reputation damage. How much does it cost you when these tasks don't get done to your reputation? And therein lies the problem. What are these tasks? What SnapScale did was we went through all of our clinics. We have over 200 and something locations represented by SnapScale service. Okay, we went through all of these clinics across the United States, and here's what we did: we identified 39 different tasks that are important for you to be taken care of that may be falling through the cracks and dropping to your time is dropping to the bottom of the day, but your tasks are bottlenecking and not getting done. And here's what they are. They're front office support tasks. You can read through all 13 of them there on the screen. These are all tasks that your front office assistant is doing, things like appointment scheduling or confirmations or insurance verifications. The important things that are pre-work in the office that need to get done either pre or post patient from a front office perspective. How about these things? You have back office support things that need to get done. These are all direct patient care related. I mean, I see here coordinating referrals and specialist appointments. You're just not going to do it because we're busy? No, those things have to get done inside the office. And so, you know, a HIPAA compliant healthcare virtual assistant, a HIPAA compliant healthcare virtual assistant can do one, they can do five, they can do all of these different tasks for your organization. It's dependent upon your statement of work and what effort goes into and how much time it's going to take them to do each thing. That's why you got to work with a specialist that can help you identify these things and work through them in your practice. And then the last number of things here, I said 39 earlier. It was 36. There's actually 39 different things that we went through. If you want the other three things, you can message me. You can email me or DM me online here, and I will provide you the other three things that they do that aren't on these tasks here, because these are growth related tasks here. These are support tasks that need to get done. Data hygiene. This is a big one. I don't know how many practices have bad data in their system right now, Kyle. What do you think?
100% of them.
100% of them. Well, I have it on the screen here. Now, I don't even know how many practices know what data hygiene is. What is that?
Oh gosh, I mean, it could be as easy as an updated phone number, or it could be a patient that no longer is like we had deceased patients and we're sending stuff out in the past. You have people that move on from your practice. You know, you have people that left the practice because of a bad experience. I mean, there's a number of things that go into that.
And in your system right now is bad data, and that's not called good patient care. That's called, I didn't have time to get to that task today, and so how do I get this problem resolved? That problem is resolved through a HIPAA-compliant healthcare virtual assistant, guys. But I'm not the only one that talks about outsourcing. This isn't a new concept. This has been around since way before even the 60s, when Peter Drucker wrote the book on outsourcing and business management. And here's what Peter Drucker had to say, famous management guru: do what you do best and outsource the rest. But before you can outsource the rest, there are 7 mistakes to avoid when outsourcing. And actually, Mike Yablonowitz, who can't make it today, unfortunately, I do have a clip for him I'm about to share with you in just 1 second. He put together these 7 mistakes when to outsource about 5 years ago, when he identified the problems that people were making when they were trying to outsource, and specifically in the medical industry. And he put this whole program together, the 7 mistakes to avoid when outsourcing, so that you, the clinic, could have a better idea of what to do if you're thinking about getting into this type of thing. Here's the 7 mistakes. We won't have time to get into all 7 today, but I'm going to cover all of them so that you know what they are. Mistake number 1 is outsourcing your core competency. Mistake number 2 is outsourcing your problems. Mistake number 3 is failing to identify goals of the business process outsourcer relationship. Mistake number 4 is failing to properly vet the business process outsourcer, the company you're working with. Mistake number 5 here, operating too fast. Okay. Mistake number 6, failing to educate your staff. And mistake number 7, partnering with a provider that does not value its employees. We're going to get into a couple of these different mistakes today. In fact, today, Kyle and I are going to cover mistake number 1 and mistake number 7. Those two, I think, are primarily important for us to cover today based upon the topic that we're talking about. But you guys will have to come back to a future webinar if you're interested in getting some of these other mistakes understood. Mistake number 1, outsourcing your core competency. Kyle, before you and I talk about this, I'm going to share with the audience here just a brief clip of what Mike says about outsourcing your core competencies.
You just can't outsource, what makes your business special. This resonates along all industries. For e-commerce companies, it's about you don't outsource your key marketing messaging that only one person knows how to do. You don't, for a sales organization, you don't outsource your sales, right? In the medical practice, it's funny that I'm going to say this you're not going to outsource like the surgery or the practice, but you don't really outsource the people around in your practice that make it great. So what I mean by that is that, remember, outsourcing is really about augmentation in my mind still, even though we get more of the, I can't find anybody to come, really it's about helping the people in the practice that have been there, right? A lot of times, Nathan, we get a doctor that comes to us saying, we can't, I've had my, front desk person for 10 years, but it's been a revolving door, find the next person, the next person, the next person. What we do is we say, okay, doc, and we become the best friend of that person that's been there for 10 years, because that person has the golden keys to what makes the practice special. And then we just build a team around them, to what makes it perfect. Because remember also, it's not really just about giving the resources, so to speak, and the outsourced talent, right? The big part of what makes this work is the political component. That's the wrong way to say it, but it's being one with the practice, right? And that's when we meet that person that's been there for 10 years. We become ingrained in the culture. They know that we're there as a partner, right? And not just like people to stick in and disappear.
What do you think, Kyle, about Mike's thoughts on outsourcing your core competencies?
I love what he has to say about that. When you went to medical school, let's say, and then all of a sudden you decide to start a business, they didn't train you how to run a business at medical school. Your core competency there was treating a patient for whatever your specialty is, right? And you got to learn all these other things along the way when you become a business owner. But the thing is about that, like, you're never going to be the best at all of those things that you have to learn. So one thing that I like to ask, and you've heard me say this before, Nathan, is who, not how. If you have to learn how to do everything, like, you're never going to go to sleep, And so for something like what we're talking about here, it's the who. The who can step in and take those things over so you can keep your core competency at home. And that's what you excel at anyway.
Yeah, Kyle, I mean, that's the clip that we need to pull and recycle and send out for everybody is the who, not how, right? I mean, but the problem is truth doesn't trend, and that's why we teach it. We just start from the process
Well, it's such
of
a simple
explaining
question,
truth.
but a lot of times, especially like our generation, we're like, let me figure out how to do it before I go ask questions, right? And some people may not want to even humble themselves to ask for help. Um, there could be a number of things, but like really, seriously, find the who can help you, because a practice doesn't run just because of one person.
Well, here's how SnapScale helps people find the who, Kyle. We provide them hand-selected team members that they can sort through their resumes that we have already vetted for the role that they're looking for. And we provide them recorded videos that they can watch of those interviews to hand select the exact right person for their role. And then as a who, from the standpoint of who knows how to manage this type of relationship overseas so they don't feel like they're doing this on their own, because they're not. We have an entire managerial backbone in the US and in the Philippines that oversees the work that their staff members doing on their behalf in their practices. These are SnapScale employees that work directly for the clinic. Then SnapScale, the managerial backbone, tracks the staff's time so that we can ensure that you're only billed for the hours that the people actually work. We have at SnapScale what we call the augmented leadership model, which means while they're employed by us in the Philippines, they work directly for you, and you get to provide training, feedback. You get to provide the leadership of that person. If they're making, an error in this particular area and you want it to improve, you can work directly with them. You're not going through somebody else. This isn't a brokered relationship with somebody else's center. These are our staff members working directly for you with a managerial team that's documenting your processes, that is helping to identify areas that this person, may need some additional assistance in to get your work done the way you want it done. And then we provide daily reports for you to be able to verify and validate the performance of your team member. And so this is just a system that we have found that worked over the last, 14 years that Mike Yablonowitz has been helping businesses outsource. And this is the tool that we help you identify the who, and we already have the how. If you're looking for a partner to partner with, this is how we do it. So we've already figured out the how for you on how to outsource. You don't have to figure this out on your own. In fact, if you're wondering, what does this even look like? Do you guys have a system? Yes, we have a system that you'll receive the recorded interview just like this, where you can see on the screen here, you'll literally click the button and the questions that we asked the interviewee are already laid out for you. And these questions are predetermined ahead of time by us to help hand select the absolute best virtual assistants for healthcare practices. In fact, we probably could do a whole training on why we ask specific questions and what questions are asked and how we get the specific responses, and how to vet a virtual assistant. But for right now, this is how we do it, is we actually go through and do that vetting and then provide those vetted resources to you so you can make a decision on who would be best for your practice. And then every single day you get this SnapStat scorecard. You get to review what performance had happened, how many appointment confirmation calls were made, how many insurance verifications did this particular staff member have to do. And this tells us how much work that person's able to get done and what their performance looks like so that their work can be measured. Because what we know also from Peter Drucker is what gets measured can be managed. But you can't manage what you don't measure. And so this helps us and helps you to be able to identify, okay, how much can this person get done? How much work is being done? Do I need a second or third or fourth person to be able to help me out? These managerial tools like this key performance indicator on your virtual assistant's work have become instrumentally critical to healthcare organizations just like yours, because they don't even have this type of insight and data on their own. And so now we own and operate these offices in Davao in the Philippines. We also have offices in India, but we are a US-based company. And a US-based company signs the BAA with your organization. So you're not forcing these people trying to have an independent BAA or relationship with somebody in the Philippines. You're working with a U.S.-based organization, and why that's important is that HIPAA, a U.S.-based law, cannot be enforced in the Philippines. So if the company you're working with isn't a U.S.-based company, then the government, and you have no legal right, if there is a data breach, to have any recourse with that organization at all. We're so HIPAA compliant as an organization, and our understanding of what we do to protect your data is at such a high level that we actually talk about with practices and organizations the fines that we already know that are available, because this doesn't bother us. It doesn't scare us. In fact, at the end of this presentation, I'm going to share with you a clip from our auditor who talked about our recent audit and what he thought about with our HIPAA compliant and our data protection for you and for your clinic. But before we can do that, I want to share with you one last bit of information in this second, and I want to talk about the second outsourcing mistake that we want to cover in this program today. Kyle, anything about HIPAA compliance that you want to share before we jump into these resources for them?
Just to reiterate, that accountability, that it goes a long way in just feeling comfortable with the relationship. I mean, this is what differentiates SnapScale from, just a run-of-the-mill outsourcer on like Fiverr or something like that. There's no accountability there other than, maybe their word, right? Like, we have that, not only that US-based relationship, but then on top of that, I think the clip goes into this a little bit, but we go above and beyond with that HIPAA compliance to ensure that any of the work that we're providing, is above the basics, above the minimum, to just, have that comfortability. And I think just that just goes a long way in making sure that those relationships stay comfortable and trustworthy.
Absolutely. So here's some of the resources, guys. Don't just take our word on outsourcing. We've put together a list of resources here to help you. Number one is the HIPAA compliance guide for outsourcing. This is an hhs.gov website that you can go to and learn more information about outsourcing and about HIPAA compliance and how important it is, what type of partners you work with and that type of stuff. So I highly encourage you to go check that out. Here's the other one that I wanted to make sure that I shared with you. Peter Drucker's Insights on Outsourcing and Efficiency. This is an old school book. This isn't a new book. It's an older book. And it's a resource that is the essential Drucker. It's the best of the 60 years of Peter Drucker's essential writings in management. So you can go check out Peter Drucker's Insight on Outsourcing and Efficiency in his book, The Essential Drucker. That's what you're looking for, the best of 60 years of Peter Drucker's essential writings on management. Again, not a SnapScale asset. It's not anything we created. These are third parties that are independent outside of us on what to look at. And then here, Becker's Healthcare Podcast and reports on staffing. Here at Becker's Healthcare Podcast, and they have staffing articles. They have a number of different things to help you have a better understanding. So you've got HIPAA, hhs.gov, you've got Drucker, and you've got the Becker review there. And those types of resources should be able to help you. Okay. Now, we've been going on for 43 minutes. I told you we couldn't cover all 7 outsourcing mistakes in an hour, even if I wanted to. We're going to be quick now, and we're going to help you understand why partnering with a provider that does not value its employees is extremely dangerous as an outsourcer. Kyle, you've been with working with SnapScale here for just a little bit of time, but you've known SnapScale for the entire length, even since they've been BBC Global into SnapScale, and you've known Mike, the CEO, for a while. Why is this important? Why is this a mistake if you're partnering with a provider that doesn't value its employees? How do you even know that?
I mean, even put outsourcing aside, I mean, any quality business is taking care of their people. That's how you create loyalty that way. You create great continuity that way. You create a great environment for people to want to stay. And when you have happier employees, you're going to have better work, and that output is going to be better, And so you want to make sure people are taken care of to the best of your ability, period. And Mike does that. Before I started working with SnapScale with Mike, I know Mike for a decade, and for every minute that I've known him, that's how That's how he's treated people. And there are people on his team today that were working with my campaigns when I met him a decade ago. They're still here. And that says a lot to me on how he treats his people. Part of the reason I came here.
Yeah, I mean, maybe one of the things I need to pull up for next time is the longevity video that we had from a recent town hall at SnapScale. SnapScale has a worldwide town hall where all team members come together for an hour once every quarter, and we share company culture and we share, successes and wins. And in that town hall, we recently had a slide that was shared with the team about the longevity of a lot of the staff that's been here. And it was incredibly impactful and powerful for people to see that people don't leave our organization. They come and they stay, and they want to be a part of what Mike is building. In fact, they want to be a part of it so much. And it's not just because of the core values, but this is foundational. Okay, so I don't want to bore anybody, but we do have some core values that I want you to think about this. We essentially plug in team members to your company. So when you plug in a SnapScale team member, you're plugging in a SnapScale team member that are built on a foundation of these core company values that we have. So you have your company values that you're going to teach, and those people will learn and adapt your company values. But they also come predetermined with these 4 values that we look for. Number one, 100% ownership. People who take ownership of their campaign, the thing that they're doing, they have to be the type of person that takes ownership for it. Dependability. Do they show up to work? Do they miss a whole bunch? Dependability is critical, and it's something that these 2 core values in themselves right now throughout the United States, this is becoming more and more difficult to find people with these core values. Communication is another core value. This is the act of giving and receiving shared information, okay? We don't want to over communicate, but we want to make sure that we're communicating well enough that if there's challenges, problems, issues on either side, we look for people who are going to bring those things to the forefront in communication. And then lastly, skills. I mean, it's important that you work with somebody who's knowledgeable and understands and knows how to do what you're asking them to do. And so those core values are critical. We also do performance reviews for you in our organization. So we'll do a attendance review along with the client performance feedback that you've given. We look at in these performance reviews corporate culture and make sure that people are culturally appropriate to the organization, and then team performance, how they interact with their teams, how they interact with their pods and their groups. And these things then become critical in the performance reviews when it comes time to hand out raises. And so for sake of time, I want to make sure that I get through some more of this information so that you understand culture that's being crafted on your behalf already. This culture was being built long before you ever thought about outsourcing, and it's going to continue to be built even long after you decide to outsource, guys. It is the SnapScale culture, okay? Part of that culture is the core values. Part of that culture is the annual reviews that we do with the team members to ensure that they're adhering to the core values and the culture. Part of that is the SnapScale agent benefit package. We attract people in the Philippines that this isn't like a thought about, oh man, I have to take this. People want to come work for SnapScale. And here's why. This benefits package, in addition to their income, they get 12 days of paid time off per year, 12 sick days, health insurance, monthly allowance for travel and internet. They have financial literacy classes. They have a variety of different things that get celebrated that are important to them. They have interest-free loans. There's a real problem in the Philippines right now with predator loan agencies. And so people will get themselves into financial difficulty, and that's when they end up having to work another job or a third job. And then they're tired for all 3 jobs. We found a solution to that simply by providing a staff member with interest-free loans. They can come to us instead of a loan shark. They don't have to pay the interest, and we can advance them on their paycheck. And so we found that to be impactful and to be helpful for a lot of the team members there. Double pay on holidays. You guys, you don't pay extra for this. This is included in the price of the virtual assistant service that we provide. Shuttle service in Davao, 13 months worth of pay, meaning they get an extra bonus month. Shift meals in the Philippines. I mean, this list of bonuses and incentives can continue to go on and on the culture that's being crafted and created, because we intentionally build the culture around the benefits to attract the right talent to the organization. Now, when we talk about bonus and incentives, this is an important, impactful part too. This is incentives and bonuses that we incentivize team members. You're not paying extra for this. We do this to help keep them engaged and excited about the process of working with SnapScale long term. Kyle, you've worked with outsourced relationships, and you've had people who work in the capacity of dealing kind of in this front office role with other organizations, and you've been entrepreneurial. You've built organizations. How impactful would this benefits package be just for a U.S.-based organization?
Gosh, I mean, I think the biggest impact and what I think this means for all the people out there listening is just continuity. I mean, when you have happy employees, again, you know, and you provide benefits that these employees actually value and, you know, it actually is helpful, people want to stay. And when they stay, you know, they stay on your campaign. They are able to, you know how we talked about that training at the very beginning when you onboard somebody new and there's that learning curve? Like, you want that longevity, because that tribal knowledge that an employee has or one of our team members will gain, you know, from being on your campaign for, you know, a number of years, you know, that's invaluable. And some of those things, you know, there's intuition that comes with that. There's vision that comes with that, knowing foreseeing a problem before it actually is a problem. Like, those things matter. So when you have benefits, and that's really the whole reason, one of, I guess, the reasons that those exist, is so that people stay and you can have that continuity and keep that tribal knowledge. So that absolutely is a huge value to anybody out here listening that wants to engage with SnapScale.
And I don't want to I don't want you guys to just focus on the extrinsic benefits, the rewards, the incentives, the benefits package that we offer. Those things are there to help you understand the culture that we're building extrinsically, but there's an intrinsic culture that gets built too, with the core values, with the performance reviews. And like I told you, with the worldwide town hall that we do, we offer different awards for people who have attendance, people who, the peer-to-peer recognition. Hey, this peer that I'm working with deserves recognition. Even though one of the managers or somebody might not have said anything, I see you as a peer, and I want to make sure you get recognized for that. In fact, these worldwide town halls have over 180, 200 team members on them at any given time, and we celebrate things like the Snap Stars Club. The Snap Stars Club is for rising above the campaign requirements. So campaign meaning working with you, the clinic, the relationship. You have certain expectations that you want met. When we can exceed those expectations, do you see all those people that are in the screen there? They're all excited about being part of the Snap Stars. They are exceeding the campaign expectations. In fact, we have all kinds of staff members that are exceeding beyond the campaign expectations, going above and beyond the client's expectations, so that you, the client, can benefit. Here's what I'll say. A lot of our business at SnapScale, a lot of it comes from referrals from clinics just like you. And the reason it comes from referrals from clinics just like you is because of the experience that they have with their campaigns, with their working with their SnapStar in the Philippines or in India, wherever they decide that they want to, or what type of role they're looking for. And this culture goes beyond just the intrinsic value of like awards and recognitions. We actually build culture. We have different types of days that go on where they celebrate maybe even US 4th of July, or people do excursions and do activities outside of the office. All of these things matter. They're company get-togethers. They're ways that we unite people together in order. We have a basketball team and a volleyball team in the Philippines, just different fun things that engage the team members, that keep them there long term, excited to come to work every single day because they have a company that cares about them. But don't just take our word for it again. Go get our word, okay? Read it, verify it, validate the things that I'm talking to you about. Here's how you do that. The MedTube method is a tool that we give away. It's on our website. You can go get it right now. It's the Guide to Onboarding and Training New Virtual Assistants by Dr. Pardeep Medtube, oculofacial plastic surgeon. He put together a guide showing you exactly how to onboard your virtual assistant and how to take those next steps. How do you train them? What tasks do you give them to start with? All right, next, SnapScale YouTube page. So if you're watching this on YouTube, congratulations. I appreciate that so much. If you haven't watched it on YouTube, there's not just this one. There's other webinars that we've done before that are on YouTube. You can go watch those webinars and see the consistent messaging since the start. How about this? The 7 common mistakes to outsourcing. You can get that on our website right now too. So if that's something that's important to you, you saw these 2 mistakes and you learned a little bit from this, then you'll love that. Go get those 7 common mistakes that people make it when they're outsourcing that Mike Yablonowitz so classically penned for you. Okay, so we covered a lot of stuff today, guys. Watch it online, Kyle. We covered a lot of things. We covered the forces reshaping healthcare, what every practice must know and prepare for. We covered today hiring in healthcare. If this worked, you wouldn't have been here. Remember, we went through all of those things. We went through easier and affordable solutions. Well, that's simply working with SnapScale with a HIPAA-compliant healthcare virtual assistant. And then we built on that, helping you understand ways to utilize those virtual assistants in the micro moments of patient care. And then we covered the 7 mistakes to avoid when outsourcing. We covered a lot of material today, guys. This, if you're watching this on replay, go back and watch it again. It's okay to watch these multiple times. I know maybe my voice, whatever, you don't want to listen. I get it, whatever it is for you. But you want to get the information from here, which is critical. So put on the closed captioning and just rewatch it, and you will get all of this information re-delivered to you in a way that's more powerful. Okay, we're right at about an hour right now. I'm going to go through lightning fast information with you. If you want to, go back and rewatch this on replay, and I want you to pause it and read the entire piece of information that's on your screen. There's going to be tons of info on these next slides. The reason is I have a bunch of case studies for you. But what I want to cover on these case studies is the most impactful, important things for you. Although the Evergreen team, this is Dr. Sherbeck, she's in Evergreen Primary Care in Minnesota. She said, although the Evergreen team was aware of offshore virtual assistance services, they had concerns about HIPAA regulations and patient privacy. This is what she said. This is what Dr. Sherbeck said about us. They were HIPAA compliant. They helped us fine train and guide our team, Tess, who has become such a valuable part of the Evergreen family. The cool thing about Evergreen in this case study is they're not a normal primary care physician in that you bring your insurance and they don't take any insurance. This is all private pay. This is a direct primary care model where the patients pay the primary care physician to just take care of them month after month. And so they hired a healthcare virtual assistant, not to increase patient volume, but to provide exceptional patient care. Here's another amazing testimonial that's not a case study, it's just a testimonial that says, Wormley, our healthcare virtual assistant, is able to work independently and rarely has to contact us with questions. Mark Plonner from Impact PT said that this has helped us achieve our visions of providing high quality, unrushed care while growing our practice. And you see the common theme here. This is Dr. Agarwal. Dr. Agarwal had this to say: SnapScale stands out not just for its compliance and security measures, but for fostering a culture of teamwork and commitment, aligning perfectly with our practice's values and goals. Remember how we talked about core values and how important it is? We plug those values in with her core values, and her team member sticks around and loves working for her organization and ours. How about this one? Parkchester medical case study. You can read this on your own. Again, these things are on our website, guys. This isn't locked up information. You can go read this at any time, but there's things I wanted to point out in this webinar. And this is Parkchester. Parkchester was a large medical facility with a lot of different practices under one operational roof. They actually hired us to help them seamlessly integrate team members into their call center and to consult with them on their call center. So whether you need one virtual assistant or you need 30 virtual assistants, we can help you do so. And here's what Parkchester had to say. SnapScale worked closely with Parkchester to restructure our call center operations by introducing standardized workflows, training outsourcing agents, and developing operational guides to help streamline patient communication. If that doesn't tell you that we know what we're doing with large medical organizations, I don't know what else I need to do to share with you and help you understand that this will help you achieve your goals. It will help you achieve your goals faster than you can do on your own because you know the who, not the how. Great line, Kyle. All right. It's not just those practices, though. There's others, right? I've got tons of practice testimonies I can share with you. In fact, I have 217 locations that sing our praises, that says that SnapScale is the ultimate provider that you should be using when it comes to HIPAA-compliant healthcare virtual assistants. So it's not just our word. Remember, we recruit the team member, we manage their work, we track their time, we report their productivity, we accept your vision, and we provide the training for the HIPAA compliance and help you document your training for your services. Plus, we sign a BAA with you. I mean, this is the service, guys. This is the service you've been looking for. And Kyle, this is the snap scale difference. We're right at an hour right now, guys. I know that I've flown through this last bit of information. I want to make sure that you get it. That's why we recorded this and we provide it for you on our YouTube channel. You can also watch it on the email replay that we send to you. Okay, but here's the snap scale difference. Here's where this makes an impact. It's not just in all of the things that we covered. There's so many benefits of working with our organization that I couldn't even possibly go through and tell you a story and get deep down like we have been this entire webinar of the benefits of working with SnapScale. Here's just some of them. No long-term contracts. We have Snap Assist, which is an augmented coverage for if and when your person's on vacation or out, getting some of your core functions that still need to be done. Here's another one, the Snap Shield. That's our 13-point no-nonsense checklist for HIPAA compliance to ensure that we are HIPAA compliant and that we don't make those types of HIPAA compliance errors. We're actually audited by a third party that provided us with the Snap Shield program. How about this? The Safe Base Initiative. I didn't even get into this, but this is we're the first in the world to be able to offer, we believe anyways, I don't know anybody else that's doing it, a certification to be able to work from home and be HIPAA compliant with people who actually go out to the home, verify the home is set up for HIPAA compliance, have a checklist, take documentation and photo, and integrate those team members. And we call that the Safe-Based Initiative. And that actually helps reduce some of your costs because it frees up some space in our offices in the Philippines. So you can save some money there if you decide to go with the Safe-Based Initiative member. You get a choice. You can work with a Safe-Based Initiative member, or you can work with an in-office team member. The choice is yours. We have the employee placement guarantee, meaning there's no charge or additional charge to replace an employee. There's tons of benefits of working with SnapScale. We have over 22 years of experience. We have exceptional longevity with our management team. We have SnapScale team lead, that assistant, that campaign mentor. Okay, they're not a boss. They're a mentor that helps your person understand your systems and processes better. That's been doing this for a long time within our organization. The Snap Assist program, the integrated or augmented leadership model that we have. I mean, I told you there's tons of benefits of working with us. If you want a healthcare virtual assistant, if you feel that one would benefit your organization, or you just don't know, but you've got a lot of information and you found this impactful, go to snapscale.com/start or scan that QR code, and that will take you to snapscale.com/start and just schedule an appointment. Talk to somebody about your practice specifically. It's nice to hear all this general information, have kind of big picture, 30,000-foot overview, but yeah, my practice is different. We agree. That's why we want you to set up an independent call and meet with a team member who's an expert who can walk you through step-by-step how a virtual assistant could be impactful in your business. Kyle, what am I not talking about? What did I miss?
Nathan, I think you nailed it. I think that's about as comprehensive as the overview that we can get done in an hour and 2 minutes.
Yeah, I know. Guys, scan the QR code, go to snapscale.com/start. I got two more. If you guys can give me about 2 to 3 more minutes. If you're just hanging in right now, you haven't booked an appointment yet, but you're like, I'm on the fence. I don't know. I want you to think about 2 things for me. First and foremost, Dr. Choi with Choi Ophthalmology. Okay, here's what Dr. Choi had to say. The number of patient appointments has increased from 20 to nearly 50 per week. That's almost 250%. So if you're the one that's the head that's thinking about this from the revenue standpoint, is this going to actually help me increase my business? Does this improve my business at all? That's what Dr. Choi had to say. Okay, he increased from 20 to 50 patients per week, almost 250% growth. Now, if you're the heart side of this and you're like, yes, but patient care is so important to me and I want to make sure that I'm taking care of my patients. Here's what Carl Kobeck had to say. SnapScale just didn't provide a solution. They transformed how we operate, making it possible to continue delivering high quality care without compromising our values or patient experience. I couldn't have said those things any better myself. That's why, guys, you need to scan the QR code. You need to go to snapscale.com/start and see if this is going to work for your business. And Kyle, I'm going to leave everybody kind of with one final video, okay? I want to set this video up. This is Matt Darjani, and he is our auditor. He actually audits us for HIPAA. He's our consultant. It's a third-party company called Digital Compliance, and he also runs a program called HIPAA-training.com, okay? Digital Compliance didn't just say that we met the minimum expectations. They had this to say.
Mike is an interesting example. Mr. Yablonowitz and SnapScale, previously Brobisco or BBC Global. We don't know, HIPAA training doesn't do webinars. We don't partner with clients and help them market. My purpose of being here is not for marketing. I'm not interested in generating sales from web contacts. What I am interested in is taking information that shows up regularly and becomes problematic regularly for our clients so that you know you're conversant and know how to ask questions and know what the answer should sound like. Mike is an obsessive when it comes to compliance. The way he approached compliance when he became our customer 3 years ago was, but how do we do better? But I know what the minimums are, but I've got some clients that are concerned about VAs, and what do we do to bolster, Matt, honestly, how do we show up as the best in the market? And it was a year, maybe a year and a half working together on a system that didn't exist. It doesn't exist anywhere. I can tell you, we have dozens of virtual assistant platforms that work through HIPAA-training.com, and there are probably 100 more that work through other of our peers in the industry. And the reason SnapScale is the only organization that we will do this with is because they exceeded the minimum standards. Then they exceeded what were considered exceptional standards. And then they started creating their own standards that are so far and above, they're so beyond the pale that it's going to generate a new standard in what is considered remote virtual healthcare.